Okay, welcome to the next video. This is for Math 127, section 11.1. So it was a relatively short homework. There's only 2 questions really, but there's a bunch of parts to each one. The last portion of this class was not quite put together. And I was planning on getting it finished up over spring break, but of course all hell has broken loose since then, so I've spent most of my time creating the tests that we now have to take online. So when you get to 11.1, there is a bunch of notes under the videos. If you looked at those, they deal primarily with shifted conics. So the notes don't relate a lot to, I mean they do, they will, but they're more of 11.4 notes. When we get to 11.4, that's all about shifted conics, so all of the shifted conics notes will come back into play at 11.4, but the homework in 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3, they are all geared towards the conics that have not been shifted. So we'll see when we get to 11.4, again, take a look at the notes. There aren't any. If you scroll under the videos, there's nothing there because all of those shifted notes I've pasted into 11.1, 2, and 3. So apologies about that. Some of you have mentioned that, so I posted that in the discussion board as well, but there's that a little bit of disconnect there. The video should all be good for this still. And then the notes for 11.1, 2, and 3 will all come back into play in 11.4, so we'll see that again. So let's take a look at question number 2. There were a few graphs that you were to make, so let's take a look at those. Before we do, let's look at the parabolas and the equations and how to create these things. If I have a function x squared equals 4py, right? This x squared tells me that my y has to be positive, and so that's all up, right? So that's a parabola that opens up like this, and then the focus is p units, whatever that p is, up. So it still happens at 0, but it happens at 0p. Right? So that's one of these, and then the vertex happens down here at 0, 0. That's where my vertex happens. So I have those. I also have an equation that could be y squared is equal to 4px, and if that's the case, x can be anything, but well, I'm sorry, y can be anything, but when you square it, it has to be positive, and therefore this x has to be positive. And so I get a parabola that opens to the right. All x values are positive. All of my y values, both positive and negative, are covered here. And again, I have this focus inside the parabola, p units in, but it's p units to the right, and so this happens at p0. And again, of course, we haven't shifted anything. We're not going to shift anything until 11.4. So my vertex is again at 0, 0. Now there are some other parabolas. I can switch this and flip it upside down, and if I do, then it's simply just a negative in my equation. This will give me a downward facing parabola. That focus is p units into the parabola, so that's 0, negative p. And then of course, vertex at 0, 0 again. The other one, I can flip that to the right, and again that's just a negative that does that. This would be y squared equals negative 4px. So these are our parabolas. This is what we're going to be dealing with in this section. So let's take a look at question number 2. I don't know where my eraser is. There we go. Okay, so number 2, this is 11.1. Number 2. We have a vertex for all of the problems in number 2. My vertex is at 0, 0. And then they give you some other information that you should be able to use to build the equation. So I think the first one, the first problem in number 2, says that we have a focus at 0, 2. So if I'm looking at what's happening here, my vertex is at 0, 0, which is going to be always in 11.1 because we're not shifting these yet. But my focus is at 0, 2. So I know that I have an upward facing parabola because my focus is up, right? The focus is always inside the parabola. And so I know I look like this. And this focus is P in the equation that'll give me an upward facing focus. So I know that I have x squared equals 4py. I know that p is 2, and so I just plug that in here. My equation is then x squared equals 8y. P is 2, 4 times 2 is 8, and that's my equation. And that's it. That's all they're asking for on that one. I think the next one down says we have a directrix at x equals 2. And again, our vertex is still at 0, 0. Right? So vertex is at 0, 0, always again, at least in this section. Right? So looking at what's going on here, the directrix is just on the other side of the parabola. So I have my vertex here at 0, 0. I have a directrix at x equals 2, that's over here, so I have this x equals 2. And if x equals 2 is a directrix, then I have a focus. If that's 2 to the right, my focus is 2 to the left. And I have my parabola, it's facing to the left. So for a left-facing parabola, that means I have a y squared equals a negative 4px. And p is 2. And so this is y squared equals negative 8x. And I'm done, right? And the directrix is really one of the building pieces of a parabola, right? The directrix is a line in which all of the points on the parabola are equally distant from as they are distant from the focus, right? So the vertex here is 2 units away from the directrix. It's 2 units away from the focus, right? Any other point on this parabola, the distance it is from the directrix, the straight line perpendicular distance, is the same as the distance it is from the focus. Not a great drawing, obviously that doesn't look right, but if I could draw a parabola worth a darn, it would be. This distance here is the same as that. The distance between here and here should be the same as the distance there and there, right? And that's what builds a focus. That's what builds a parabola. Let's take a look at the very last one on problem 2. It again has a vertex of 0, 0. And it says that it's an upward facing parabola. And the focus is 5 units. away from the vertex, right? So all this is just a wordy way of saying that my focus is at 0, 5. Right? So I know what that looks like. I have a vertex at 0, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units up here. I have a focus. It's an upward facing one. That means that I have x squared equals 4py, where p is 5. And so that gives me x squared equals 5 times 4 is 20. And I have x squared equals 20y. And I'm done. And that's that. So I think all of this will help you with problem 1 as well. Problem 1 was just graphing some stuff or matching an equation with a graph. So once you can do all of this, 1 should be easier because it's, I mean, you don't have to even get that specific. I don't think 1 has the directrix or the foci or anything like that even posted on it. You just have to get the right direction for the most part. So anyway, again, good job on posting questions. Keep it up. Today's discussion was pretty sparse because, I mean, there was 2 questions in the homework. So how many questions can you ask about 2 questions, right? Good job on the exam. Keep up your good work. We're almost there. I don't know what else to say. So see you next time.